It is admittedly a bit strange to introduce a political debate by saying these people are all vying to become the next mayor of Ontario's capital city, and none is expected to win that job, at least not on October 22nd. But it's worth keeping in mind that more than 80% of the people who run for elective office do so knowing they're going to lose. But they run because they've got something to say. And so we thought we'd invite three candidates, not named Tory or Keesmaat, into our studio to learn more. And with that, we welcome, in alphabetical order and from left to right, Sarah Kleiman-Haga, Saran Gebrselassie, and Nia Singh, all candidates for Mayor of Toronto. Great to have you three with us. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Let us just start in alphabetical order. I asked the same question to all of the potential mayoral candidates who come in here. Let me get your take on this. What's this election all about, Sarah?
Well, I know what it should be about. It should be about affordability, because Toronto's becoming a place where people cannot afford an apartment, they can't afford transit, they can't afford to live here. It should be about equity, because Toronto is increasingly a land of rich islands of rich surrounded by a sea of low-income people. And it should be about quality of life, because we've got a huge budget problem in front of us, and we're going to be making cuts, as far as I know, that will threaten our quality of life. We need to have great libraries, parks, community centers, all the resources that make it possible to live in Toronto no matter how much money you make. Those are the issues for me.
Saran, what's this election about for you?
This election has a lot to do with money. So first off, I would like to say that John Tory is beatable. Nobody expected New York's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to beat a 10-term incumbent. And while I recognize I am an underdog in many respects, that big organizing can defeat a big money machine.
That is true. What you just said is true. It can happen. Are you expecting that to happen on the 22nd?
I'm on the ground in all of our neighborhood improvement areas, and the people are very, very clear. There is zero appetite for 4 years of more of the same. And I'm clear that absolutely John Tory is a beatable candidate. He is not untouchable, and that this city is now 51% migrants and racialized communities. So John Tory is speaking to a very small segment of our city's population.
Nia, what's this election about for you?
For me, my concern is violence in the city, the uptake and the increase. But what it seems to be about is media control over the message. Unfortunately, we have 35 mayoral candidates that have not gotten exposure. The three here before you are not part of the daily discussions between Jennifer and John. And I think Torontonians want to be included. So it's becoming about trust. People in the city are beginning to lose faith in the system because they're not getting true representation before them.
Okay, to trust you three better, we need to know a little bit more about you. So I am not going to assume that everybody knows who you are and what you're standing for and so many things. So let's talk a little bit about all three of you. You were, I guess, drawn initially, you worked for the World Wildlife Fund, so you were drawn to environmental issues initially. How come?
I started out, I don't know, at the age of 8 or 9, reading a newspaper about environmental challenges facing the city and the world, and it really struck a chord with me, so it's always been a passion of mine. I did my degree in Montreal at McGill, biology and environmental studies, went to World Wildlife Fund, and there is where I realized that if we are to address the significant environmental challenges facing all of us, we need to concentrate on cities, because cities are the solution. If we can live sustainably in high density, but with using fewer resources, that's a great way forward for all of us. So that's why I moved into cities and transportation policy in particular. Now,
this is going to sound weird. You're not born here, but you moved here when you were 6 weeks old, right?
Right.
So you've lived here, much of your life, obviously.
Yes.
Okay.
I born in Cambridge, England, and moved here. My dad was doing his degree there. We came to Toronto, and I've been here ever since, except for university and a few travel stints.
Gotcha. Okay. Saran, you came to Canada as a refugee, yes?
That's right. My family was leaving a conflict zone, and I grew up in Toronto community housing for the first 16 years of my life. And today I then began a career as a successful human rights lawyer and entrepreneur. And I've also spent a long part of my career in mass mobilization in the city of Toronto, meaning mobilizing Torontonians in the thousands during the anti-war movement and during labor mobilizations. Actually, CUPE has this slogan saying, "Be realistic, demand the impossible." So a lot of my track record is about beating the odds, defying expectations, and achieving success.
What drew you to civil rights work in the first place?
Toronto is one of the most unequal cities in the world. We're now amongst one of the most expensive cities in the world. But at the same time, we're the 13th wealthiest city in the world. So I am taken aback by how how far we have to go as a city and how much of a divide there really is between the haves and the have-nots in our city. And so I'm dedicated to closing that gap.
Nia, like Saran, you are a lawyer and an activist, and I wonder what drew you to that work.
Same thing that drew Saran, funny enough. In 1997, I first ran for political office, and that was 21 years ago.
What'd you run for?
I ran for Scarborough, Malvern City Council when the city was amalgamating. And it's the same reasons I'm running now, is to bridge the gap between those who understand politics and those who don't. I ran a recording studio from the age of 19 for 20 years. And when I was getting in touch with the youth, I found a lot of injustices taking place. So I said I would step up and speak on behalf of the community, but quickly learned that it's not about good ideas and goodwill. It's more about money and who has the most volunteers. So we're finding that again in this election. But I'm really drawn to it because I think as a city, as a good city, we deserve good representation. And I find over the past few years, our city quality of life is declining, and we need someone who's going to stand up for humanity before politics.
And you're born and raised in Toronto?
Born and raised in Toronto to parents of Guyanese and Bermudian heritage.
Terrific. Okay. There are many different ways to influence the public agenda of any city, and you three have obviously chosen to run for mayor as the way to do it. Why? Let's go in the opposite order this time. Go ahead, Nia. Why run for mayor?
Because our city's changing, and we need somebody who's going to represent all interests of Torontonians. And I find that the social classes are dividing. There's a bigger divide as the days go by, and we need someone who understands all levels. And for me, I've lived with the low income for a great deal of my life. I've taken transit for a great deal of my life. I'm an entrepreneur, single father, and I think those things represent the wide gamut of experiences in Toronto. And we need someone who can speak to those issues with experience, not just speak from a theory perspective. So that's really important in having true representation of the people working hard-working, working class people.
You have the so-called lived experience of many different experiences in the city, I guess is what you're saying.
Definitely, definitely.
Okay. Saran, why run for mayor?
I believe the city, working class people deserve an authentic champion. We've seen in this race that at the present time, John Tory is no champion for working class people in the city. And I am dedicated to advocating for the social justice, on a social justice agenda, to advocate for immigrants and newcomers and working class people. My campaign has an active wing in our city's prisons because I fundamentally believe that this can be a city for everyone, and that is in the future of our city.
Sarah.
And I ran for mayor because I just don't see on the political landscape the choices of the people who I think we need. I don't see the platforms we need. And I see how Toronto is undergoing a huge number of challenges, and we keep trying to apply the same solutions that are failed, that don't work. We try to apply the same solutions to congestion. We just keep trying to make cars move faster. That's not going to move people. We try and apply the same solutions to our budget, not raising taxes, not talking about our real needs, and while people are suffering all around us. So I see the same solutions being proposed for the problems that are growing and they're not working. So I'd like to propose the solutions that evidence shows will work.
This is just an observation. There is no single way to get to the mayor's office, but some people might be watching and think to themselves, you know, why don't you run for city council first? Or why don't you run for trustee first? There's, you know, the sense that you ought to start in the mailroom before you want to be the CEO.
Right.
So what's the answer to that?
Well, a few different answers. I mean, one is I have a very good city councilor, and I didn't want to run against him. Now I have two good choices. I wouldn't want to run against either of them.
You're in this ward, aren't you?
Yes. I have Councillor Joe Mihevc and Josh Matlow. But I think what people don't realize, it's as hard to get elected as a city councilor as it is to get elected as mayor. We've got a really fundamentally flawed democratic system. The second thing is that's a political career you're outlining, and I'm not interested in a political career. I'm interested in change in Toronto. And so I don't think we should have politicians whose job is to be politicians. They need to be people who come from all walks of life. The mayor sets the tone. The mayor can accomplish a huge amount. So to have them spend, 12 years, 16 years developing a political career rather than having the lived experience and all the other kinds of experience that would make a good leader who makes good choices.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, the first thing John Tory ever ran for was mayor of Toronto in 2003. So it's not like what you're doing is unprecedented. In fairness, he was a lot better known. So why not start somewhere lower on the food chain, as it were?
Well, I might point out that John Tory in his early days was polling at 3%.
As he tells everybody all the time.
Right, and it goes to show, I say it again and again, that this is actually not rocket science, that the will of the people is really clear in the City of Toronto. People are pleading for drastic and radical change. I've also been a city councillor for 13 years without the title. I don't need a city councillor plaque on my door to operate as such. My office has been a constituency office for over 10 years, and nobody asks Blaney Lastman why would he contemplate putting his hat in the ring without being a city councillor, and no one asks Jennifer Keesmaat that either. So it goes to show that the people of the city are looking for authentic champions.
We should just explain that. Blaine Lastman is the son of the former mayor, Mel Lastman. So your point is there's an understanding that if you're second generation or if you've had a big job at City Hall, nobody asks, are you entitled to run? You just do.
Or if you have a machinery and big money behind you, which is why I say big organizing can defeat big money at the mayoral level.
Understood. Nia, you have run before, so I won't ask you that question. I'll try something else with you here. I mean, presumably you're all running because you think you can do a better job than the incumbent at being the mayor of the city. So let's just dissect the record a little bit. Nia, what's the worst decision John Tory's made as mayor in your view?
To support carding. That's one of the few things that I can point out for Mr. Tory, and I was very disappointed after fighting hard on behalf of the community for human rights. Mayor Tory, when he took office, undid and rewrote the Toronto Police Service's policy on carding.
He did take a step back on it, though, right?
He did, and fortunately, he realized that it was a mistake and came back out in front of it and said that carding should stop. But that was the first glimpse of me being unhappy with what Mr. Tory was doing. So that was prime in my view.
Saran, what's the worst decision he's made as mayor?
I was really disappointed to hear John Tory come out saying he was going to invest more in policing. It was 13 years ago I met with Prime Minister Paul Martin with heavyweights in the community to call for a community-based strategy to eradicate crime in our city. And I can't believe 13 years later that we have John Tory utilizing the same techniques over and over again when people are so clear that to take a bite at crime, we need to eliminate poverty. And the police budget, as you know, occupies 1/10 of the city's operating budget.
It's over $1 billion.
That's right. And really, I've proposed creating 1,000 new youth jobs in all of our neighborhood improvement areas. And I have assured the people of the City of Toronto that under my leadership, we will see crime plummet because we need innovative, out-of-the-box, extraordinary thinking to the job. And we were not going to see that from a status quo politician like John Tory.
Sarah, in your view, his worst decision as mayor?
You know what? I'd rather not say worst decision. I'd rather say the worst tone. And it's the tone around transit has been, let's focus on one big, giant, multi-billion-dollar project at the expense of all the other transit in this entire city, including Scarborough, which has a lot of huge transit needs. So it's that focus on this imaginary long-term project instead of real things that are affecting Torontonians every single day when they take transit. And then the tone around our budget, which says we can somehow have it all in some magical way. We don't ever have to raise any revenue, but we've got huge spending needs at the city. And that's another tone that's absolutely false. We need to be truthful to people, not make promises that will result in service cuts or quality of life reduction in this city.
So I'm inferring from that answer that you think there is a need for the city to raise more revenue. How would you do it?
Well, there's been reports put out there that give out a number of different directions, but one, the easiest is always property tax. You need to do it in a fair way that doesn't affect people who already are paying too much, and there are people who are paying too much. But there's also a commercial parking lot levy is something that has been mentioned over and over again. It doesn't negatively impact any individual who can't afford it, and it raises a tremendous amount of money, and we have the political ability to do it. What do we want less of in the city? We don't necessarily want less of people who own property, but we do want less driving in this city. We do want less cars in this city. So why not tax what we want less of rather than tax the things that are helpful for the city?
Nia, do you think the city needs more revenue to implement the program you'd like to see done?
I actually don't think it needs more revenue. I think it needs to control its spending. We find the city, like we said, the police is over $1 billion budget, TTC over $1 billion budget, and the salaries of the City of Toronto employees are very high, where a lot of that budget gets eaten up by it. So I'd like to see a salary freeze from all councillors and all city employees, because the quality of life of Torontonians is far below those who are unionized employees that work for government. So I don't think that we have to worry about revenue generating tools as much as we have to do is responsible spending. But I would say that Toronto's arts and culture scene is so vibrant that we can definitely have city partnerships with a lot of those independent theatrical companies, concert companies, and start revenue generating that way, because Toronto is a world-class city, international city, and the arts are phenomenal here.
So Ron, where are you on this issue of whether the city ought to raise property taxes or not to deal with the increasing demand for services?
I've been advocating for equitable redistribution of resources within the city budget. We actually have a great city budget, and there is, the spending, in my view, has not been allocated properly. I'm a big champion for arts and culture. We heard at the Arts Votes debate that the arts and culture sector generates a significant amount of revenue for the city of Toronto, but it occupies a teeny tiny fraction of the budget. And same with economic development. I said the police budget takes up more property tax dollars than libraries and paramedic services and children's services and arts and culture combined. So that's why I've come out so heavily in favor of redistribution of city resources.
I think if anybody on the mayor's staff were watching this right now, they might ask the following question, which is, okay, we understand that you three don't like the current mayor of Toronto very much and you think that you can all do a better job, but he's 25 points up in the last poll I've seen on the second place candidate, and none of you is the second place candidate. So if he's doing such a horrible job, why is he apparently so popular and with such a huge lead? Go ahead, let me hear from you guys on that.
Well, first, I don't want to say that I don't like John Tory. I think we have to take this personal thing out of it, because a lot of people like John Tory, and a lot of people aren't happy with the way things are in Toronto.
But you want his job. You're running against him.
I want his job because I don't like his decisions. I just want to be clear that it's about
Okay.
people's decisions. It's not about their personalities or, how they come across. So I think that is an issue. I think that is why the mayor has so much popularity. Number one, name recognition, we all know, is huge in politics. He's got the best name recognition. Of course he's going to be far out ahead. Number two, he does come across as a statesman. I mean, he is well-spoken. There's lots of personal traits he has that people like, but his decisions are not benefiting the people in Toronto. But that is the disconnect that doesn't get made, and that's why I'm running against him.
Saran?
I've always said this mayoral race, money was a major factor. John Tory has a lot of money behind him, so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy to say, oh, well, John Tory's in the lead, but look at the machinery behind John Tory, and that's why I assure the people of the city of Toronto, do not underestimate the power and mobilizing ability of ordinary people, working class people, immigrants. I've been knocking on doors for 2 years now, and at some point we're going to see a complete shift in thinking in the city. Also, Toronto enjoys one of the lowest voter turnout rates. The majority of the people in the city are not voting because so many people are disengaged. So I challenge the notion that John Tory is seen as favorable amongst the majority of the people. That actually isn't the case.
Well, that's what the polls reflect, Nia. I mean, the fact of the matter is he's got a huge, if you believe the polls, and the polls are, despite what people want to say, usually right. How do you account for the fact that he's so apparently got such a big lead right now?
Well, because he's getting all the exposure, Steve. The media has only chosen two candidates, and that's why they're running first and second. I can guarantee you if a person like myself, Saran, or Sarah had as much exposure consistently as John and Jennifer, we'd be polling high up there as well. So it's this sad state of affairs where democracy is not in place. We have a directed election. This is not an informed election. The voters aren't informed, and they don't know the options that they have in front of them. Every person I meet when I'm on the campaign trail says, I wish I knew about you earlier. How come I haven't heard about you? I really like you, and I'm going to vote for you. So I can tell you for sure that John Tory and Jennifer Keesmaat's numbers on the polls aren't because they are the city favorites. They are because they are the city's only option that the media is presenting to them.
Well, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to have you three in here today, because we want people to obviously see the broader panoply of things here. Yeah. Saran, you brought up the issue of policing budgets a few moments ago, and I just want to follow up on that. In your view, how big a problem is crime in this city?
The crime is a problem in Toronto, and I have the solution. The solution is we have to get really serious about eliminating poverty. And this is not new. It's been said over and over again. There's 1,000 reports saying that. And under my leadership, that's what I say. I will create 1,000 new youth jobs. We'll see a complete new page turned in this city because we need to get to the root causes of crime. That's the only way we'll actually be able to see record lows in criminal activity.
So 1,000 new youth jobs you think would reduce the crime rate by how much?
Well, it's a whole new sort of plan where we're creating innovation, creating economic opportunities, creating opportunities for inmates that are released from prison. And that's why I have proposed a partnership between the City of Toronto, the Toronto Public Library, and our city's prisons so that when inmates are released, they're set up on a pathway for reintegration into our city, for success in our city, to reduce their likelihood of reoffending.
And this is one of these interesting issues, Sarah, because you, I mean, as we talked about with your background, you have sort of come to public life with an interest in the environment, public transit, so on. Not sure crime was very high on your list of personal priorities, but in your judgment, how big a priority should it be given public interest in it?
Well, I think public safety has to be a big priority, and public safety can be about gun crime, it can be about food security, and it can be about safety on our roads. So, you know, the recent statistics are that about every 12 days someone is dying due to a crime-related incident, and about every week someone is dying because they're struck by a car on the road. So we need to attack both of those things, and I really agree with a lot of what Saran saying about how we have to attack crime, but we're ignoring the fact that there are preventable deaths happening every week on our roads because of our attitude around transportation. So I think we do have to look at public safety in the entire spectrum of what's important.
Not
Absolutely.
just gun crime.
Not just gun crime. I mean, it's important, and Torontonians need to feel safe. I mean, we are fortunate. We are still a statistically safe city, but Torontonians don't feel safe because of what they, have seen this summer. So we have to address not just gun crime. We have to address road violence. We have to address food security. 1 in 4 children is living in poverty in Toronto. That's a huge burden on our city. So we need to address the whole thing.
Nia, I'm going to ask you this question because you raised carding a little while ago.
Yes.
Do you think the Toronto Police Service is an institutionally, systemically racist organization?
It has been in the past. I believe the current chief, Mark Saunders, is doing his best to change that. But unfortunately, the association, Mike McCormick, seems to be putting a roadblock in that path. There's called the path forward, the way forward. And I support good police officers, but there is a problem with corrupt police officers in the city. And as lawyers and as community advocates, we have to fight against it. But crime is the most important issue, I think, on this year's election. And that's why I released a 10-point plan to reduce violence, because we're not coming with positive preventative solutions. We're looking at always putting police after the fact, after the shots have been fired. We need to stop school suspensions and expulsions so kids remain in school and don't have a life of crime with petty crimes leading up to more serious ones. So I think in regards to racism, the whole city has institutional racism across the board, and it's very unfortunate. But because we have such a strong, diverse community and population, we've been able to fight it. But it seems like the whole wave of Trumpism and fascism is sweeping over the city right now. We have mayoral candidates who come from neo-Nazi backgrounds. So we really have to look at institutional racism as a whole, not just from police, but also in the education system, also in administration, also in City Hall. And that's why I think a diverse range of candidates is the solution to that. And me as mayor would put a face to that.
Well, since you said with me as mayor, we've got a few minutes to go here, and I want to ask you all three to complete the following sentence as we try to consider what the capital city of Ontario might be like, how it might be different if one of the three of you were in the mayor's chair instead of the current mayor. Please finish the following sentence. Saran, if I were the mayor, ... Go.
If I were the mayor, we will see record lows in crime. We would see new jobs for young people in all of our neighborhood improvement areas. We would see deeply affordable housing. We would see opportunities outside of the downtown core in employment and cultural programming. We would see equitable redistribution of resources in the city budget. I would welcome in a new era of politics to City Hall.
Sarah Kleiman Haga, if I were the mayor? ...
I would be now focusing on moving people, not moving just cars. And that would actually see our city start to move, and it would see our public places be more vibrant, more beautiful, and safer for everyone. We really have a 1950s mindset around transportation and congestion in the city, and it's leaving us stuck with those problems. We need to move into the future. So if I were mayor, we'd be moving into the future. We'd be a world-class city that other cities would be emulating, not laughing at or saying we're stuck in the past. That'd be around transportation, and then around quality of life. We would be a city where we didn't have to go and depute and plead our hearts out at City Hall every January to say, please don't cut the library, please don't cut the swimming pool, please don't cut the arts and culture programming. We would be a city where we recognize that was key to the health of all of us. So we'd be making the city far more affordable, far higher quality of life, and far more fluidly moving.
Nia Singh, if I were the mayor, what?
If I were the mayor, I'd bring increased peace and prosperity to the city. I'd be an actual example to what it takes to do hard work, and no matter what your age, you can go back to school and achieve something. I'd be an example to all those young people who say, the system doesn't work, I'm not voting, I'm not getting an education. An example of what it takes and what you can become. And if I were mayor, I would just want to see humanity prevail. I think Toronto the good has started to become Toronto the greedy. And I think that we have to really have a concerted effort as human beings to raise the social status of Toronto as an international city.
Let me give each of you 20 seconds, literally 20 seconds, because we're almost flush out of time here. This is, there's 2.5 million people in this city, and I think, 35 or something are running for mayor. So it's an extraordinary experience. What have you liked the most about it? Sarah?
Absolutely talking to people, and talking to people outside this small circle of media and political insiders, talking to people on the street who, as Nia says, they don't care whether your name is John Tory, Jennifer Keesmaat. They just care if you have good ideas. And that's been so exciting to hear what people have to say.
Saran?
I have taken so much joy in seeing first-time voters come out and say, I've never voted in my life in the city of Toronto, but I'm going to be voting for you because I see potential. And seeing my campaign gain traction with communities in 26 cities around the world, because there is an excitement to actually make history in the city of Toronto and to see a shift. If there's one message I have for the people of the city of Toronto, it is that John Tory's machinery can be beat with our mass organizing.
Okay. Let me get to Nia for the last word here.
Most enjoyable piece is when I meet people on the street who aren't interested in voting and they don't want to hear anything you have to say. And then after a couple good words, they stop, they listen, and then start discussing politics with you. And then the truth comes out, what they really care about, and seeing them say, you know what, I'm going to vote this election. So just engaging the non-voter into voting is what I enjoy the most.
Super. Mr. Director, that's exactly what I was going to ask for. A three-shot of Sarah Kleiman-Haga, Saran Gebrselassie, and Nia Singh, all candidates for Mayor of Toronto. The 22nd is not far away, so we wish the three of you well in the last week of a very long campaign, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming into TVO tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.